All right, guys, welcome to the latest stream. So, a lot to do today in terms of what we're going to talk about. We're going to cover some of the most interesting news of the week. Obviously, the latest Trump move related to H1 policy, the H1 visas. We're going to talk a little bit about the recent sell-off we've seen with Ethereum and some of the crypto miners, and then we're going to actually dive into TrendSpider. We're going to look at some technical analysis. And we're actually going to discuss a couple interesting stocks right now. And specifically, I'm going to talk about a stock that we bought last month. We added to the YOLO portfolio, and we've seen it break out beautifully. It's followed what we expected really nicely. And it's just, again, another great example of how you can use fundamentals and technicals to really find these great trade opportunities. Okay, guys. So let's begin by talking a little bit about the recent news. First off, of course, we had over the weekend there was a bit of panic going around with this whole idea of the H1 visas that Trump. They just changed the policy there. They just changed their the visa policy. They're saying that people will have to start paying like $100,000 a year. Obviously, this has some strong implications for big tech companies. Who obviously hire a lot of have a lot of employees. Using these visas. But again, we're kind of seeing the Trump taco in action again. So it does sound like already we're seeing this policy being walked back a little bit. So it's still not clear how exactly this is going to happen. If it's going to be every new visa, or if it's not even going, or if it's just renewals, or maybe not even that. So again, there's a lot of leeway here for the visa situation to change, and again, basically for this administration to do what it does so well, which is basically walk back, walk back the things, walk back these kinds of things, right? Now, on the other hand, what we've seen in the last few hours actually is a bit of an interesting acceleration in the uh, in the sell-off in Ethereum and altcoins, especially. I mean, Bitcoin is down about 2%. Ethereum, though, has taken the brunt so far. It's down about 6%. Kind of looking to find a bit of a bottom after that big sell-off there. So again, whenever something like this happens, it's never. It's always a little bit unclear how these things, why, what causes a sell-off, right? But we can point to things like liquidations probably. So definitely, basically people who were long Ethereum, getting liquidated, and that kind of creating a kind of a long squeeze or short squeeze, or depending on whether it's a big sell-off or a big rally. And that's actually something that happens quite often when it comes to crypto, right? The key thing here, in my opinion, is not to get too caught up with the not to get too caught up with these sell-offs, right? Because anything. I mean, when it comes to cryptocurrencies, these sell-offs are to be expected, right? What we actually need to do, in my opinion, is look at the chart and actually zoom out a little bit, and I think that can provide us with some calmness, especially if you feel like you're like this is a sell-off that's making you question the rally here. I mean, if we actually zoom out into the into the into the weekly chart right here, we can see it quite clearly, right? First off, Ethereum still pretty much following this kind of breakout that we saw here. So we saw it break out from kind of this high. I mean, basically challenged the all-time highs. But I have this trendline resistance here because this is we've obviously hit this spot a few more times. So we broke out from there. And if you actually look at the weekly here, we're just kind of retesting this level, right? And we're still above the key EMA, so nothing too crazy. I mean, if we do look into the 4-hour chart, obviously it looks a bit worse. Obviously we broke the immediate support of the 200 EMA, which has held quite well. But again, nothing crazy here. What I want to do is take this chance to point out this really cool new tool, on TrendSpider. So if you click here on indicators, First off, obviously, there's tons of different technical indicators you can add. Obviously, I always use the RSI, MACD, different moving averages, and you can actually look at select indicators that from the TrendSpider store, right? Which the people create, and some of them are paid, but some of them are free. And one that I recently discovered that I quite like is the capitulation finder. So what this does is it takes RSI moving averages and volume, I believe, to kind of try and find spots where basically there's either a bearish capitulation, so a bottom could be in, or perhaps a bullish capitulation, right? Meaning that the top could be in, right? So in this case, for example, quite interesting to point out that we've just seen we've just pretty much hit that level on Ethereum. So potentially I would say a good entry point here. But we can see how it works. I mean, obviously it doesn't work 100% all the time, but it's definitely a good little indicator which we can use. And again, just another great example of all the great tools. Of course, on the other hand, we haven't, if we look down here at our market beating algorithm, we haven't really beat the we haven't had a buy signal yet. We had an exit ahead of the sell-off, so that actually saved us a little bit from losing sell-off. But we haven't had a buy yet. But of course, when that triggers, I will let you guys know. So with that said, I also wanted to talk a little bit about some other couple stocks that are on my radar. Obviously, I would say quite interesting. Someone pointed out that while crypto and Ethereum have been selling down, gold just continues to rally, right? Even now at this point, and basically, I wanted to talk about gold a little bit because I think that this is still a very good, a very good buy for anyone long term. For anyone that's worried about the recent, for anyone that's worried about, call it whatever you will, right? The AI bubble or anything like that. This is definitely something that I just don't see how gold could not go further up from here, right? And basically, in that regard, a couple interesting stocks that I wanted to discuss. One of them is IAG, which we actually own in our portfolio, right? In our swing portfolio. Obviously, it's done really, really well. And I would say, based on the RSI, we're getting close to a sell potentially. So maybe some signs of exhaustion there. But, obviously, look, our algorithm got us in here quite near the lows. And, we've enjoyed a nice rally there. Obviously, Newmont Corporation is a stock I hold in my long-term portfolio, which I've talked about before. So, I think the miners generally as well here look like pretty interesting opportunities. If we zoom out a little bit, we have this 3-point fib extension here. And this is kind of what I was projecting for Newmont. I was looking at least getting into that $145 region. Okay, so that would be the 1.618 extension of that 3-point fib extension. Again, another great tool you can use, the 3-point fib extension. Yeah, so if you look here on the left on TrendSpider, that's how you do it. Basically, you choose your low, you choose your high, and then retrace it, right? A little bit different from just a regular fib retracement, which would just work like that. That's the 3-point as well. Which would be good to either measure retracements or extensions, but the 3-point fib extension definitely better for the extensions. Now, I wanted to finish off by diving into a stock that we mentioned in our Substack a while back. Okay, so we actually look at, I actually discussed this stock, what was this? August 3rd. Okay, so on August 3rd, we talked about a penny stock that could 10x. And, for paid subscribers, you guys got access to this. I shared this chart back then. And the stock is, of course, EOSC, which is a small battery producer. Okay, if we go back to the chart, we can see here basically that we followed almost exactly that path we laid out, right? So I pointed out that we were basically filling this kind of ascending triangle, and that it looked like we were getting ready for a big breakout. So from the technical side, things looked really positive for EOSC. Also at the time, we actually got our algorithm giving us a buy signal here, pretty near the lows, just as just after that kind of big initial rally and sell-off. Then we actually got a strong buy signal here, and EOSC has just continued to rally. And I believe right now it's up about 5%. Ooh, okay, only 4.5 now after 8% yesterday. So yeah, over $10 now, which is pretty remarkable considering we bought this around $5, I think. Maybe a bit more actually. August. But anyway, it's up I think about 60-70% since we bought it, and I just wanted to bring this to your attention. Obviously, I still think it's a really good stock. I just did a deep dive for Seeking Alpha, discussing some of the positives of this stock. First of all, just to understand quickly what EOS does, it's an energy company, right? It creates long duration energy storage. So again, this is something that's going to become a lot more important throughout the next few years as we move into, for example, renewable energies, right? As we know, the problem with those are you can't actually store them, right? Can't necessarily store the energy for so long. Also with data centers, and the big demand for electricity that we're getting now, this is obviously going to be quite an issue. Now, the beauty of EOSC is that what I like is that it uses zinc batteries, which has shown to perform a lot better than your traditional lithium-ion batteries, right? Those are your traditional kind of what you normally hear about. But on top of that, obviously zinc, a lot easier to source from the US, obviously less dependency on, I believe most of the lithium now would come from China or Australia, so reducing your dependence there. Here we have the potential market growth up to about 10 billion. And overall, as I discussed in my original Substack article, just a really strong stock in terms of if you actually look at their projections and the backlog that they've accumulated, it looks really good. If you look at revenue estimates, of course, again, this is a very early stage company, which kind of explains why, it's actually kind of shorted. Also, the balance sheet, I will, of course, say is not the strongest, but, obviously revenue projections here are for, the revenues to just explode higher. With EPS, potentially reaching the stock kind of potentially reaching break even in the next 3 years. So again, a very important inflection point that I think, the market is sort of slowly realizing, right? Which is what's, helped us kind of really begin to take off. And of course, the short interest is actually close to 30%. So to that extent, obviously, for those that are looking for those kind of short squeeze potentials, I really think that there's a lot of potential with a stock like this. So just wanted to bring that up. And obviously, for anyone that wants to get these kind of insights, if you aren't subscribed to the Pragmatic Investor, check it out, because obviously over there, if you subscribe, you can check out all our whole YOLO portfolio and everything we do over there, right? And of course, if you haven't already, obviously, I would strongly recommend you check out TrendSpider as well. There's definitely a lot of cool things, like I just pointed out, the indicators. Obviously, if you do subscribe, you'll get access to my personalized market-beating algorithm, MBA for short. And, that's pretty much what I wanted to talk about today, guys. I need to keep it relatively short because, unfortunately, I need to do some stuff right now. But generally, guys, if you like the live streams, make sure you subscribe and stay tuned. My idea is that, we'll be doing these every week, around 9, but probably more like 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So for the most part, you can, if you are subscribed to the YouTube or the Substack, you should get notifications of that. But, you'll bear with me because I've been having a little bit of trouble on the tech side, but hopefully it'll just get better from here. So anyway, thanks for joining us. I know it was a bit quick, but I think we covered a lot of interesting stuff there for you guys. So with that said, have a great rest of the week. Obviously, I'll be in touch on the Substack and talk to you soon. Okay, bye-bye.